Welcome back to the channel. Thank y'all for hanging with me on this Friday. So the question I get asked the most about flipping this time of year is, when does it end? How long can I do it before that bite just totally fizzles off? And it all depends on what type of cover you have in your lake. So if you have grass and the grass never dies, you probably already know this, but the flipping bite will be year round. If you have grass that is dying, they will still bite flipping baits, depending on what you're doing, until there's one last strand of grass in the lake. So you may not have matted vegetation, you may not have a whole lot, but you can still flip to those fish and catch them. And that's going to be like up here on Guntersville, December, there will still be a flipping bite going on. Now, depending on how many people do it for the next couple of weeks, which is going to be a lot, it may be tough to get a bite flipping, but you can still catch them doing that. Now, once that water gets 60 degrees, that's when I really think those fish are going to hunker up. Now, it all depends if there is still grass left at that time, depending on the year and when the grass died. So the grass is dying, breaking away, rain can melt the cheese, wind can blow it out of there. And if you don't have, anything holding to the bottom, it's not really going to be good flipping cover. It's going to be more so frogging and stuff like that. But if you do have it and that water starts to really cool off, but it's still stuck to the bottom, so I really like to go with a punch skirt. That's going to kind of keep that weight just a little bit slower in the mat. You can really slow down with that punch skirt on there. Like when I was catching them 2 weeks ago, we still had water that was 82 degrees. So I wanted that bait going fast. I didn't have any skirt on there. It was just the bait and the weight, and I wanted it falling through. Now, if you have wood in your lake, laydowns, bushes, this bite is also going to last depending on how your fish are relating to the structure around the bushes. So what I mean by that, in September, what you'll find when you have warmer water is the bass will be on those channel swing banks, but on the ends where they get real shallow. So they're probably pushing the bait off those deeper channels up onto the flat, and they're going to keep them around the shade, and the bass are just going to naturally want to go to that cover, and so will all the bait fish. Now, as we get a little bit further into the year, you're just going to see everything slide back out to the channel swings, and those are going to be the bluff walls. So a bluff wall is a really good jig bite, and this will be a year-round thing as well. You can kind of feather this jig down the side of those bluff walls when they're just not using the shallows anymore. So they're probably going to still use that shallow cover for at least another couple of weeks. But once that water really starts to get cool, you'll just fish the bluffs. And this is where I really like these compact tungsten jigs. I like to cast them to the bluff wall, make short flips. And what you're doing is you're just kind of fishing it down the side of the bluff wall. So it's going to hit real close to the bluff wall, and you're just going to feel it kind of making some contact with that wall. But again, bluff walls are going to be right in the channel. So it's deep water. You may be sitting in 20 or deeper, and you're basically just feathering it down the side of the wall. So it's never really going to ever hit bottom, but you can feel it. Those bass are going to be going up and down the wall like they would use any other type of bottom, except the bottom is vertical, and they're going to be on there, and you can just feather this bait down there. Now, I will say this. I have talked a lot about whatever techniques you're doing now typically are going to last for at least another month or so, because that bait is going to get in one area, and you can continuously go back to those places and catch fish as long as no one else is pressuring them. What I will say about the bluff wall deal is that goes away. That doesn't happen every single year because you don't have fish that are pushing the bait up on the flat and just staying up on the flat feeding. These bluff walls are more like highways. They're not always just going to stay put on a specific bluff wall. And everyone knows about bluff walls, so you're going to have a lot of fishing pressure on those areas. So it's not always going to be the jig, even though that's where I typically start. You can fish some other baits that are going to get you some bites when they've just seen too many jigs. So the flipping bite, depending on the cover in your lake, depending on what you have, it does tend to last, and it will go all the way into the winter when you're throwing a jig up on a really deep, steep piece of structure and just hardly moving it. And that's where you're going to end. And we'll start off in January next year when they're going to start getting shallow again. You can catch them flipping on hardwood no matter where you're at. And then you have Florida. Those are one of the lakes where you always have grass. So there's always a flipping bite. And right now is probably that time of year in Florida where you're going to start seeing a couple of those cooler nights, a little bit of north wind, and you're going to see fish starting to get in that pre-spawn mode. We probably got another month before that happens, but man, it just seems like once that water gets like cooler than 80 degrees down there, that first wave of fish moves shallow. Can be the best time of year to fish in Florida. So if you want to get away from your winter, go down to Florida. November, December, that's when you fish are going to start getting in that pre-spawn mode and even spawning, and you'll see one of the best flipping bites anywhere, anytime down there. But there's still one here. There will be one here for at least another month or two. Try flipping. You got time. Good luck to you, and I'll see you on the water.